Welcome to Science and Technology Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Xiaomi billionaire gifts record $182 million to China University. Richemont monitoring situation at online luxury retailer Farfetch. Prosus sees sooner than expected profit at e-commerce business. Deepfake pornography victims learn there are no laws to fight it. Mediators look to extend truce in Gaza on its final day, with one more hostage swap planned. Xiaomi billionaire gifts record $182 million to China University. Bloomberg. Lei Jun, the co-founder of Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi, has made a record cash donation of 1.3 billion yuan, $182 million, to his alma mater, Wuhan University. This is the largest ever cash donation to a Chinese university from an alumnus. The donation will be used to support computer science innovations, students' development, and research on fundamental disciplines. Donations from wealthy Chinese individuals have been increasing as President Xi Jinping aims to reduce the wealth gap through his Common Prosperity campaign. Lei, who graduated from Wuhan University in 1991, is now worth $14.3 billion. Richemont monitoring situation at online luxury retailer Farfetch. Reuters. Luxury goods conglomerate Richemont has stated that it is carefully monitoring the situation after the founder of online luxury retailer Farfetch, José Neves, said he was considering taking the company private. Richemont, which owns several Swiss watch brands, has no financial obligation to Farfetch and does not plan to lend or invest in the company. Richemont agreed last year to sell a 47.5% stake in its Yoox Net-a-Porter fashion and accessories business to Farfetch, with an arrangement in place for Farfetch to potentially acquire the rest of ANAP. However, Farfetch's financial difficulties have raised concerns about the deal. Prosus sees sooner than expected profit at e-commerce business. Bloomberg. Prosus, the Dutch investment arm of Naspers, has announced that it expects its e-commerce business to achieve profitability sooner than anticipated. The business reported a first-half trading loss of $36 million, a year-on-year improvement of $220 million. It is expected to turn a profit in the second half of 2024, ahead of its previous target of the first half of 2025. Prosus e-commerce businesses have maintained growth and improved profitability, driven by cost reductions and improved efficiencies. The company's buyback program has also delivered value, unlocking $25 billion to date. Deepfake pornography victims learn there are no laws to fight it. Bloomberg. The rise of AI-powered deepfakes has made it easier for individuals to create realistic fake pornographic images and videos. These manipulated images are often used to degrade and exploit women, leading to severe emotional and psychological consequences for the victims. In the absence of laws specifically targeting deepfakes, law enforcement authorities struggle to prosecute those responsible for creating and distributing these images. The legal landscape surrounding deepfakes is further complicated by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which protects internet platforms from being held liable for the content posted by their users. This lack of legal framework allows deepfake creators to operate with impunity, perpetuating harm and trauma on the victims. The article highlights the case of Patrick Carey, who created and posted manipulated images of his former classmates on the website kumoandprintedpics.com. The victims, a group of young women from Levittown, New York, took matters into their own hands and conducted their own investigation to unmask Carey as the predator behind the harassment. Eventually, Carey was arrested and charged with multiple felonies, including promoting a sexual performance by a child and aggravated harassment. However, none of the charges related to the deepfake images he had created. The article also mentions the efforts of Will Wallace, a former police officer, to expose the individual responsible for running kumoandprintedpics.com. After months of investigation, Wallace identified Scott Trent Costa as the operator of the website. However, his attempts to get the website taken down were unsuccessful until he collaborated with other vigilantes and targeted the site's business model. Finally, kumoandprintedpics.com was shut down, but a new site, trybuttyprintpics.com, emerged shortly after. The persistence of these websites and the lack of legal consequences for the creators of deepfakes highlight the urgent need for legislation addressing this issue. Mediators look to extend truce in Gaza on its final day, with one more hostage swap planned. Associated Press. International mediators are working to extend the truce in Gaza, hoping that Hamas will continue to release hostages in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. Israel has welcomed the release of hostages and has said it will maintain the truce if Hamas continues to free captives. However, Israel's main goal, the annihilation of Hamas, seems to be slipping out of reach. Weeks of heavy bombardment have had little effect on Hamas rule, and it still has the ability to conduct negotiations and enforce the ceasefire among other armed groups. An Israeli ground invasion could eventually destroy Hamas militant infrastructure, but at a high cost in Palestinian lives and destruction that the US, Israel's main ally, seems unwilling to bear. The Biden administration has told Israel that if it resumes the offensive, it must operate with far greater precision, especially in the south. However, this approach is unlikely to bring Hamas to its knees, and international pressure for a lasting ceasefire is growing. George Santos refuses to quit ahead of vote to expel him, live. The Independent. Republican Rep. George Santos of New York is facing expulsion from the House of Representatives after a 56-page report from the House Ethics Committee found substantial evidence that he violated federal law. Democratic Reps Robert Garcia and Dan Goldman have filed a privileged resolution to expel Santos, which the House will have to handle within 2 legislative days. However, Republicans are unlikely to support the resolution, and it is unclear whether Santos will be expelled. Santos has refused to resign from his post, despite the pending vote. Santos has been embroiled in multiple scandals, including lying about working at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, falsely claiming to be Jewish, and lying about attending college. The New York Times reported that Brazilian authorities are also planning to prosecute him for allegedly stealing a checkbook and making purchases using it. The House Ethics Committee report found that Santos used campaign funds for personal expenses, made false statements on financial disclosure forms, and failed to disclose financial interests. If Santos is expelled from the House, it would require a 2/3 majority vote. It is unclear whether enough Republican lawmakers would support his expulsion, as some may see it as setting a precedent that could be turned against them in the future. Expulsion would be a rare move, with only 5 members of Congress being expelled in history. However, Santos' refusal to resign and the mounting evidence against him may put pressure on Republican lawmakers to take action. Prosus reports $2 billion in core earnings, up 118%. Reuters. Technology investor Prosus NV reported a 118% increase in core headline earnings for the first half of 2024. The company cited improved profitability in its portfolio of investments as the reason for the increase. Core headline earnings for the 6 months ending September 30 were $2.0 billion, compared to $1.1 billion in the same period the previous year. Prosus NV considers core headline earnings to be the best measure of its operating performance. China EV maker NIO signs battery swapping deal with Geely. Bloomberg. Chinese electric vehicle (EV) manufacturer NIO has signed a second battery swapping partnership in less than 2 weeks, this time with Geely Automobile Holdings. The companies will develop 2 battery swapping standards for private cars and commercial vehicles, promote the technology and expand operational scale. They will also establish a battery asset management mechanism, build a unified battery swap operation and develop compatible vehicles. The partnership comes as NIO aims to build 1,000 battery swapping stations this year and prepare for an initial public offering. And that's a wrap for today's news. Before we sign off, let's take a quick recap of what we've covered. First up, we had Xiaomi co-founder Lei Jun making a record cash donation of $182 million to his alma mater, Wuhan University. Talk about giving back. Next, luxury goods conglomerate Richemont is keeping a close eye on online luxury retailer Farfetch, as the founder considers taking the company private. The deal is hanging in the balance, and it's got everyone on edge. Moving on, Prosus, the Dutch investment arm of Naspers, is expecting its e-commerce business to turn a profit sooner than anticipated. The company's cost reductions and improved efficiencies seem to be paying off. Then, we delved into the dark world of deepfake pornography, where victims are left defenseless due to the lack of specific laws targeting this issue. It's a serious problem that urgently needs addressing. In the Middle East, international mediators are working hard to extend the truce in Gaza, but the goal of annihilating Hamas seems to be slipping away for Israel. The pressure for a lasting ceasefire is mounting. On the political front, Republican Rep. George Santos is facing expulsion from the House of Representatives after a report found substantial evidence of federal law violations. Will he be expelled? Only time will tell. Lastly, we had Prosus reporting a whopping 118% increase in core earnings for the first half of 2024. Talk about a successful investment. And that's all for today's news. Remember, folks, stay informed, stay curious, and keep those questions coming. What are your thoughts on these stories? Let us know. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.